So the reason why you get 3 is because you get an actual Birkin with the flap, you get a Birkin that is more open style if you decide to remove the flap, and then you get a separate pouch. Hey guys, my name is G.P.S. and welcome back. This past weekend, Hermes presented their Fall-Winter 21 collection through this really cool 3-part live-streamed performance. They had the first act in New York, then they cut to Paris where they held the actual fashion show, and then the last act was in Shanghai. And it's been quite a while since we last saw a brand new style of Birkin or Kelly walked the runway. But this time they did present a brand new style of Birkin, which I got so many questions and comments about that I thought we might as well sit down and do an entire video on it. And since we are already here, I'll also share with you some of my favorite looks, a couple of other accessories and leather goods that are launching for the new season, as well as a style of Kelly that is rumored to be relaunching for fall-winter. So without further ado, let's get into it. At this point, I'm sure you will not be surprised to hear that I do love Hermes, but I'm not one of those customers who is blindly amazed by everything that they do. It's not enough for me for a piece to come in an orange box for me to absolutely love it. I am quite critical when it comes to their pieces, especially when I talk to you guys about them, because I would never recommend and rave about something that I personally wouldn't feel comfortable spending my own money on. But this year, I have to say that the Runway collection was absolutely breathtaking. I cannot remember the last time that I saw such a refreshing and energetic collection from Hermes, especially when it comes to ready to wear. I felt that the fabrics, the concepts, the shapes, the choices of fabric were all just refreshing and innovative. But most importantly, I felt that they were relevant. None of them were out of place or over the top. Every single piece I felt would fit the lifestyle of the Hermes customer, even in the current world that we are living in, which for me I felt was the most important. And obviously most pieces were everything that you would expect from Hermes. They were understated, they were elegant, they were perfectly constructed. But I have to say that there was a twist with every single piece. They kept in mind the fact that we are not going out nowadays, there aren't events and parties to go to and wear these pieces to. So I felt that they created pieces that could be really appreciated from sort of within. The pieces were cocooning, they were soft, they were comforting, and they were pieces that I feel you could wear to any occasion and basically no occasion. You could just appreciate the fact that you're wearing these incredibly constructed pieces, which in my opinion was a huge highlight. And I personally think that it was a really clever move from Hermes to do this because they kept in mind the lifestyle of the current lifestyle of the Hermes customer, and they didn't come out with a line of loungewear. They came out with pieces that were true to the heritage of the brand, but were also very much suited to the changes in the world. And I think that this collection was just honestly phenomenal. It wasn't boring, it wasn't safe, which Hermes is something that they do often. It was refreshing, it was young, it was innovative, and I personally was really impressed by it. With the exception of a couple of pieces, but one flop that I have to highlight. So let's just start with that, get that out of the way. It was a black on black outfit, which should be right up my alley. And if I only look at the top part, I actually quite like the styling. I love this turtleneck being layered underneath this cool sort of blouse, and I love the Alpha Kelly choker, which is a line of fine jewelry that is being re-promoted. And as we move down, I even like the belt, but as soon as we get to these track bands, I was like, I have no idea what's going on. Whoever led these onto the runway needs to reevaluate what they're doing, because this was absolutely hideous. This is not even a pair of pants that you'd find at Forever 21. So I had absolutely no idea what they were thinking by releasing something like this. The choice of fabric, the way it looked and was styled on the model was just honestly so cheap looking, which I don't think is the look that Hermes is going for or that anyone would be going for who buys pieces from Hermes. Even though this is a shape that we'll see throughout the collection, I think the choice of fabric ruined this look with that nylon and the fluorescent strips. It just looked ridiculously cheap, and I really have no idea where you'd even find the inspiration for something like this. Maybe in a 90s music video, but I don't think that's quite where we're heading in terms of aesthetics. So I don't know what Hermes was thinking with this look. It ruined the entire ensemble. So I really have nothing nice to say about that. But let's move on to the rest of the collection, because I have to say the rest of the collection I really enjoyed. And let's start with a couple of coats that I absolutely loved, which came in a couple of different fabrics and colorways. So they had this cocoon coat, first of all, in this beautiful black, really heavy wool fabric. When I first saw this walking down the runway, I initially thought that it might have been shearling or some sort of a fur, but when I had a closer look, it to me just looks like a really heavy wool fabric, and I absolutely love that. I love that it has this beautiful leather piping not only around the edges but also around the huge oversized pockets. I think it's just a really flattering look that you can throw on with any outfit. It just looks expensive at the end of the day. And then it was also shown in a more neutral color palette with this incredible scarf detail, which I'm not quite sure if that's built into the coat or if it's a separate detail. But we have seen Hermes play around with these different color details. If you watched my last runway reaction video, I'll have that linked up here. I believe we reviewed the Spring-Summer 2021 collection together. Yes, I think it might have been, it must have been the Spring-Summer 2021 collection because it's the one currently in stores. And Hermes back then started playing around with these interesting color details where they basically had this, I didn't even know if it was a hood or if it was a collar or if it was a scarf, but they had these pieces of draped fabrics wrapped around the neck of so many different pieces. And that I don't think worked. It kind of looked like the towels that they give to boxers in between fights that they have around their necks. It wasn't a flattering look. But I think this scarf is so much more elegant and refined, and if it's removable, you essentially get a two-in-one. Even if you have to buy them separate, the fact that they are in the exact same fabric, in the exact same colorway, I think would make these an amazing combination. And because they seem to be honestly identical in terms of the color and the fabric of the coat, I would assume that they come together. You'll see that the fringe is a recurring element in this collection, and I think it just looks incredibly chic with this coat. And speaking of fringe, as I mentioned, it's an element that we saw throughout the entire collection. And another piece that I wanted to bring to your attention that features quite a bit of fringe is this incredible short wool/cashmere jacket with this beautiful cape detail on top of it. This is the piece that I was referring to, or these kind of pieces were the ones that I was referring to when I said that most pieces were exactly what you'd expect to see from Hermes. Elegant, understated, chic, but there is a twist to them. These are the kind of pieces that if you are looking to invest in a piece, one that you know is going to be part of your collection for a lifetime, you can pull it out today or 20 years from now on, because it's just going to be as relevant then as it is today. This is the piece that you should be investing in, because there's just something unique and interesting about it while still being timeless. The way this is constructed is just absolutely divine. You can tell that they didn't just take a short jacket and threw a cape on top of it and they were like, okay, let's see what it looks like. They spent a lot of time constructing it and looking at the details and the proportions to make sure that the cape works in harmony with the jacket and it doesn't become overwhelming. And then the last two looks that I wanted to mention before moving on to the bags, both featured the same quintessentially Hermes print called Zouave and Dragons, with this breathtakingly detailed 3D dimensional embroidery. The first look was this high neck sweater that featured the silk print on the body of the sweater, and then the sleeves and the collar were made of this sort of heavier, chunkier knitted fabric. And then it had this beautiful mid panel running through the middle. This outfit together was as Hermes as you can possibly get. And then a similar piece to this was a bomber jacket which featured the exact same print. But instead of the paneling detail being on the front, it was right on the back, running down the spine of the model, which honestly was just such a couture-like detail. Both of these pieces and both of these looks were just absolutely divine, but if you're looking to invest in one piece from this collection, I think either the bomber jacket or the sweater would be an amazing piece to look into because they're not only quintessentially Hermes because of the print and the shapes, but looking at the details, they almost seem couture-like to me. So hands down, they were the most jaw-dropping pieces of the season. And without further ado, let's get into talking about some of the bags because as you probably noticed, most of the looks were styled with this really interesting looking new style of a Birkin in a size 30, which is a brand new style of Birkin which we don't have too much information on at this point, but I'll share with you everything that I know as well as my thoughts. So this is a Birkin that will essentially be a 3-in-1. Obviously, when you buy or when you see a Birkin, it has three main parts to it. So it has the body of the bag, the two top handles, and then a flap that most people tend to wear on the inside, including myself. Now Hermes decided to play around with the flap detail this time instead of the shape and the colors, and they decided to make the flap removable, which kind of makes a lot of sense because most people don't really take advantage of it anyway. So they decided to make the flap removable, but they also created a pouch bag that was attached to the flap. So if you decide to remove the flap, you basically get a pouch bag that goes alongside with it. And then if you remove that pouch bag with the flap on top of it, you essentially end up with this open style tote, which I think many people will enjoy out there. Or obviously you can put it back together and then you just get your run-of-the-mill regular Birkin bag with obviously an additional pocket on the inside that you can either use as a divider inside of your bag, you can use it empty if you don't want to make your bag heavier, or you can use it as sort of a middle pocket as a divider to have your bag a little bit more organized, which I think is quite interesting. So the reason why you get three is because you get an actual Birkin with the flap, you get a Birkin that is more open style if you decide to remove the flap, and then you get a separate pouch that you can use on its own. Now, a couple of questions that I do have is whether that pouch is going to have any sort of closure on it, because it definitely doesn't have the twist closure. You wouldn't want to have a twist closure inside of your Birkin because it would most likely scratch and leave a mark behind on the inside of the bag if you decided to have the flap on the inside. So I'm not quite sure what kind of mechanism they're going to use. Hopefully we'll have some sort of a magnet or something to hold the pouch together in case you decide to use it on its own. And then a concern that I feel a lot of people will have is how are you going to put the pouch inside of the bag? Is it going to move around? Is it going to be safe? Now, based on the pictures that I've seen, the pouch bag will have the exact same construction as the Birkin bag does. So it will have holes on the side. So the sangles, which are the little bands on the sides of your bag, can actually go through it. So it will become a completely integrated part of your bag if you decide to put it inside of your bag. Or I'm sure you don't necessarily have to kind of pull the sangles through the pouch. You can just throw it in there if you want to. That's the way I would wear it. Because I feel if you pull the sangles through, it might become a little bit too complicated for you to take the pouch in and out. So I don't think that this is a bag that was created with people on the go in mind. So it's not the kind of piece that you would carry as a Birkin and then throughout the day you would just take it apart and start using the pouch and the bag completely separate throughout the day, if you know what I mean. This is the kind of piece that you would either use as a Birkin one day, but then the next day if you decided, hey, I don't want a flap on my bag, I just need an open style tote. At home you can take it apart, you can leave the pouch at home or just throw it back in the bag without the sangles being attached. And that's I think the way you would get the most out of this bag. It's not one of those pieces that you could, use as a bag and then just grab out the pouch whenever you wanted to. It's more about getting multiple bags in one that you could use on separate occasions. What I'm trying to explain is that it's basically not a piece that you'll take apart when you're on the go. It's something that you'll have as a well-constructed Birkin one day. The next day, if you need a pouch bag, you can take this pouch out, use it as a pouch on its own, or you can use the tote bag that you get without the flap and the pouch inside of it, which I think will actually lighten up the bag quite a bit because obviously Birkins are known for being extremely heavy because of all the incredible quality leather that they use. And I think if you remove the flap and then the pouch from the inside, they will lighten up the bag quite a bit. So perhaps it's something that you want to consider if you always felt that a Birkin 30 or a larger Birkin was too heavy for you, I think removing the flap will remove a little bit of weight. But then you have to keep in mind if you want to put the flap back in, because it will come with a pouch, it will add a little bit more weight to it. So you just have to decide what's more important for you. But at the end of the day, this bag doesn't look drastically different than any other Birkin out there, especially if you're just going to use this with the flap attached to the bag with the sangles woven through. Unless you're drawn to the fact that you can make the bag lighter, you love an open style tote or a flat pouch, or perhaps a bag with a divider and a larger pocket on the inside, I don't think it's one that you should rush to the store to put in a request for. Obviously, if you love playing around with your pieces and if you love having multifunctional bags, I think it is one that is pretty cool and it's fun to play around with. If you're someone who would love to have a flat pouch in your collection that features the Birkin flap, I think by all means go for it. It's a really cool piece. The only thing that I would keep in mind is that it's not going to be, I think, as structured and as well, I would say as full-bodied as a Birkin would be, that is just really well constructed because you have all these moving pieces. So if you think that you'd find that annoying and you don't think you'd take advantage of that, I would just hold off and wait until you get offered just a regular Birkin. But if you love novelty and you love pieces that you can play around with, I think it is a really cool piece. And if you thought that was it when it comes to bags, not quite. There was another piece that was kind of on the borderline of being a bag or an SLG shown on the runway, which was this compact pouch that to me looked like a phone case with different added details. So it featured a lip balm holder on the side, it had this card holder slot, as well as a case that to me seemed like a case for AirPods. And to me, it was very obviously inspired by the cargo Birkin, which in my opinion is not a bag with all those different details that worked for me. But I think this little pouch bag, on the other hand, is extremely cool, especially because when we go out nowadays, it's not like we need a huge bag. All we need is our phones, a lip balm, maybe an AirPod depending on where you go and who you go with, a mask, and then a card holder. So again, I think it was very clever of Hermes to keep our current needs in mind. And it kind of looks utilitarian, kind of something that you would see in the military. So if that's the kind of aesthetic that you identify with, I think this is a piece that you would really enjoy. And then last but not least, there was an iconic Kelly scene during the presentation that took place after the fashion show in Paris, which is a bag that was designed by Jean-Paul Gaultier for the brand when he was leading Hermes in terms of creative direction, which was called the Teddy Kelly. Now, obviously, all Hermes bags are hard to get, but this bag was on another level. This was a bag that was truly created for the avid Hermes collector. The fact that this was part of the presentation after the show obviously got people talking, and I think the fact that it was present at the presentation kind of implies that it will be coming back for fall-winter. And let's be honest, it wouldn't be too surprising. Most of us knew that it's going to be a matter of time, considering that Hermes has been relaunching and reviving some of their most iconic pieces over the years. And I have done a video talking about some of the pieces that were relaunched, but if you'd want me to do an updated video talking about all the pieces that were brought back by Hermes from the archives, then do let me know in the comments section. I absolutely can. But if you've always loved the Teddy Kelly, perhaps you'll have another chance to pick it up in the next few months. And this completes my video today on everything new from Hermes. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I would love to hear what you think in the comments section. I'm particularly interested in your stance on the new Birkin, the one that you can take apart and then put back together. I would love to know what you think. And if you enjoyed this video, then please make sure to give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you being here, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.